All right, hello everyone, and welcome to Theorycrafting Thursday. I, of course, am very happy to be introing our chess podcast. We talk about chess every week. I'm very excited. Another week. This week, though, it's not just myself and Proud. It is actually, we brought in a special guest to talk about chess at a higher level. We brought in StanKing, good friend of ours. He also plays Dota, but we'll get into that later. That's a little less important. Primarily, though, chess. That's the important stuff. So hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
All right,
So Stan, as we know, you're known as StanKing because of your aggressive king play. You're one of the few top-level chess players who uses the king in the most aggressive fashion. Can you talk a little bit more about the way you use the king?
I pretty much only play chess exclusively with my king. I've mastered the art of using my king to intimidate the enemy.
Perfect.
And I like to move into dangerous places to give them the old scare tactics.
Yeah, you like the classic play where you just confuse the enemy by making absolute nonsense moves. That's generally how I play chess as well, if we're being honest. Except, like, it's more about confusing myself and a lot of nonsense on my part than less than tactical nonsense. But before we get farther into our chess portion much later, potentially in like an hour, we're going to talk about Dota 2, which is a hobby of all of ours. It's something to break up the monotony of our definitely probably weekly chess podcast.
Yeah,
So on that
chess
note,
sucks.
on that note, let's talk a little bit about our special guest today. StanKing is a pro Dota 2 player who plays for FDL, which
Fucking dog lickers, right? That's the team?
It's actually Feet I Lose.
Okay, all right. That's a new one. We were talking about this before because obviously, of course, for everybody not abreast of the situation, it's friendship, dedication, love. But being that it's like OG and FDL, it's not like a team that, to my knowledge, like the team goes by the acronym. It's not like their name is their name and then gets shortened to the acronym, if that makes sense. Kind of like OG, where OG has like 800 different names based on, everybody's feelings at any given time. So anyway, StanKing, also, you stream, correct? Well, I shouldn't say correct. I know. I watch his stream. It's good. So we brought him on because obviously, we like to talk about Dota 2 ourselves, but having somebody much wildly better than you on tends to help. Especially now that Proud obviously being the one position player, me now being a two position player, we've been lacking support for the last few weeks, and StanKing is an incredibly high MR player. What's your MR at the moment, actually? Aren't you like 78 or like 8K or something?
7,800. It was 8K 2 days ago.
Nice.
Okay.
Oh, well.
That's not that high, actually.
Condolences for your no longer 8K. I know both of us are scared at losing 5K, so I can only imagine. But so you climb almost exclusively as support or primarily as support?
I actually am incapable of playing a core hero.
Oh.
So,
Is that like a medical thing, or
it's a life condition, actually.
Oh, I didn't mean to.
I'm cursed to playing cores at a 5K level, so I just have to stay away from them.
Yeah, well, you're not going to stay away from them today because we are both cores at a 5K level, so we'll see. But you should be used to carrying people at our level, so we'll see. But you're also the captain of FDL, if I recall correctly?
Yeah.
All right. So that's...
I actually wanted to talk a little bit about that. Okay, so this is totally separate, but man, so I captain our shitty team, Hakuna Murana, and I like to look up what other captains do and kind of how they talk about progressing from like the semi-pro to like the actual pro shit. And I think I heard at one point like AUI came into FDL and just kind of like taught you guys a bunch of shit. Is that a thing? Am I just wrong?
That was true. Yes.
Okay.
He's like one of friends with people on last iteration of FDL.
Yeah.
So he had a lot of interaction with us when we started out, and he kind of just watched some of our games and guided us through kind of like the basics of how to start a Dota team and some of the moves that we should be making and stuff.
So is there like, I feel like a lot of times when people talk about start air, like getting helping out newer players, there's like this entire little like rule book or whatever that more established players are just like aware of, and then once you break into that higher echelon, there's just this like world of knowledge that can be dropped on you to immediately elevate your play. Is there actually something like that? Is there some like secret fucking rules that people just like don't know unless AUI comes in and tells you what they are?
I think it's just kind of making like accelerating improvement more than anything else. You can figure a lot of this stuff out on your own. It just takes a lot of like reflection and a lot of games and experience and stuff. But it's always nice to have people who kind of know what they're doing to guide you along, especially when you start out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it's doable, kind of on your own. We didn't get help forever, so we just kind of moved on.
Obviously, you have to get to a point where someone thinks that you're worthy of being bestowed the knowledge upon. So obviously, I mean, I don't know. I just think I like that you're a captain. And captain's great. Would you do you consider? Okay, so this is a question I kind of had for myself, but do you consider yourself more of like a captain or like a person who makes plays? Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense.
That does not make sense to me.
Okay, like all right. So I think about like a player like Puppy. Like Puppy and PPD are more captains than they are players, right? Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah.
Wait, what do you think? What do you think like from your perspective? On the StanKing.
I think it's just the person that people kind of look up to on the team and makes their decisions, and people like kind of follow. I don't think being a Dota team is like, of course, in games like important, like who makes kind of shot calls and like who kind of like tells people what moves that the team should be making, but it also kind of like sets the tone for how the team runs like as a whole. And the way I see like PvD and Puppy is they really establish the baseline, like how they want the team to be.
Gotcha.
I know there's a whole scandal with Puppy and how he ran his team, but at the end of the day, it's still like the leader kind of sets the pace on how he wants the team to move, how he wants the team to progress, and that's what I think the captain of a Dota team does.
That makes sense. So I know obviously like in the pro scene, we see most captains nowadays are 5 players or maybe 4 players. I can't think of any 4s that are captains off the top of my head. But do you think there's like, it's kind of been talked about a lot, but I haven't heard like an actual pro's perspective on it. Do you think that captains tend to be 5 players because of the way they think about the game, or is it a position-based thing entirely? Because I mean, obviously we are the farthest thing from a pro team imaginable, but Proud is our captain and our 1 player, and in a previous iteration, our one of our support players was our captain. What do you think on that topic? Is it just like coincidence that a lot of 5s happen to be captains?
I think it's just usually the support players have less to think about at more important stages of the game, so they tend to be the ones that control the action.
Gotcha.
So like mid to late game, supports tend to kind of like are more able to direct movement and direct action, just because half the time they're actually literally just standing around waiting for something to happen. So it gravitates more towards like not having that sort of like skill threshold of always having to kind of be thinking about farming, thinking about like your mechanics, that sort of thing. That allows captains to kind of naturally gravitate towards the support position.
Gotcha. That makes sense to me. I know, obviously, our anecdote is different, but I definitely see that a lot of time. And I know, I don't remember if it was during his iteration of Secret when Eternal Envy was on there, or if it's with NP now. But it's always interested me with teams that divvy up shot calling, where the supports are making moves early game, but then in the late game, a team transitions into having somebody like Eternal Envy be the shot caller because they are like the high priority, like farm intensive hero. That's always been a weird balance to me, and obviously it works for some teams and it may not for others. But as far as I know, FDL does not do anything like that, right?
I think one thing that people like to do is, as the game gets later, the carry kind of makes more and more of the team's decisions because he has a broader perspective how the game is going, because he understands relative to other situations how the carry like how farmed he is, how farmed the enemy is, like if he can fight people, if he can take base, stuff like that. Like most of those, like the carry has played through those situations and know exactly how strong his hero is. I guess what I'm talking about more in terms of like making the calls and like being the captain, it's more than just like in-game sort of stuff, if that makes sense. It's like kind of thinking about how heroes work together, how roles kind of blend together how people should work together as a team, and that's the sort of thing that takes like special carry players like Eternal Envy to kind of really be able to do while he's playing that role.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, especially because other core roles, I mean, you interact with the other lanes a lot less frequently, right? Like, your support kind of knows whether or not you should play, like, a dual off lane or an aggressive tri-lane kind of style, because they're in and out of those lanes. The carry probably doesn't have a great perspective on whether or not you should be doing a dual off lane, that sort of thing.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense because we never run dual off lanes. Thanks, Proud.
Hey, we do sometimes, but they haven't been working recently. But anyway, don't worry about it.
Yeah, well, we used to, and then I stopped being a support player. Now
we always do Wyvern Slarder dual off lane, and that shit was fucking awesome, but we don't have a fucking Wyvern player anymore. Anyway, we don't need to talk about that.
We've talked about Winter Wyvern many times on this show. I'm a big fan of it.
The real topic, shut up. So let's talk about fucking StanKing the StanKing, right? Because that is the best fucking hero and has been the best fucking hero in the game, and finally it's getting picked. And like, I'm not talking like, oh, it was nerfed and then it was buffed and now I said it was always like, it's ever since like this patch, that hero is so fucking good. And you play a lot of StanKing because I looked at your Dota buff. So tell me how he's great now.
I haven't played StanKing in like a year or so now.
Oh my, what the fuck? Jesus. This was the whole point. Fuck.
We felt so good about ourselves because we did a patch notes review and it was fun, but we have been like astounded. At least I've been astounded. Maybe Proud is arrogant enough to say that he expected it, but we've been alarmingly correct with some of these hero predictions on like which would be really good. But for weeks now, we've just been saying that StanKing is basically like the god hero.
He is a very, very good hero.
Okay, all right. So you just happen to not be playing.
I just don't play it anymore because I have to play supports, and I don't get the luxury of playing core heroes. And StanKing nowadays tends to be the offlane hero.
Okay.
So I kind of gave up a little bit on like personally playing the hero, but he is a very good hero. A lot of teams pick it very frequently. He's a very good pub stomper just because of how his skills work. People don't understand that caustic hurts you a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, in every bracket, even in the pro bracket, the 7K bracket. So he is definitely very strong and will be picked until he gets nerfed.
So you're definitely on the off-lane StanKing bandwagon, not the 4-position like StanKing?
I think in an organized game, 4-position is good, but in pubs, you should definitely play off-lane StanKing.
Gotcha. That makes sense to me. I can see that. I don't personally play StanKing, being that I don't play off lane, and I was 5, so I suppose I had your plight of playing the not StanKing support. But yeah, we're definitely fans of the hero. I know we draft it all the time because it's just great. Although
we should play more off lane though. I was gonna say it's like we like to pick our off laner pretty early on, but yeah, we should just get that fucking StanKing going, man.
Yeah, especially after Skrunk's falling out with Axe first phase.
Yeah, that breakup. I thought that was going to hurt us pretty bad, but I forgot we can just pick StanKing. It's a new flex pick with the Bat Rider. Anyway, we're good.
All right. So
enough about us figuring out how to play our team. Thanks, fucking Stan.
Yeah, StanKing is Owie was to FDL what StanKing is to Hakuna Marana. That's what I'm feeling.
That's the whole plan, man. And then I'm gonna pay for a CCNC to coach you. We'll be all set.
I'm glad you're paying for him to coach me. God bless, dude.
Dude, I can't play mid, man. I'm done with that dream.
Yeah. Well, you can play Dragon Knight when I don't want to play it.
I'm a fucking good knight.
Yeah. Yeah, boy, that's the dream. All right, so I suppose let's have some general conversation. How has Dota been treating you recently, StanKing? Other than losing 8K in the last couple of days. I actually feel really bad about that because I've been like contemplating going back into solo rank and like potentially losing my 5K.
Yeah, I lost like 11 out of 12 games or something, just like off one day. It was kind of depressing. I don't know why I kept playing, but sometimes losing makes you do stupid things, I guess.
We've all been there, buddy. We've all been there.
I haven't, but Proud definitely is there all the time.
It's 700 in fucking 5 days. All right.
Yeah, that's like the gambler's fallacy mentality. I fall victim to that too, but like I limit myself strictly on like I play when I was doing my like climb to 5K or whatever.
Sam, I don't really want to hear you talk right now. So Stan, how's your Dota been besides those losses?
Welcome to the show, by the way. This is how it works.
I guess my teams, we kind of play qualifiers, and we haven't been doing so well, so been a little down. We did make one LAN this time, so it wasn't a complete failure. But,
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, you beat MP in like the finals of the qualifier for which LAN was it?
It was Northern Arena.
Nice.
Beat it
Yeah,
Invitational. I think we just got back like a few days ago from the LAN, so that was fun. It was nice. I wish I could have a few more of those experiences, but losing is learning, I guess. So until next time.
Yeah. I mean, if there's anything we've all learned playing Dota for years and years, it's that you got to lose and then lose more, and then eventually you start winning things. All right.
Yeah.
On that note, though, like pub-wise, have you like had any recent epiphanies in pubs? Being that this patch has lasted for.
Still.
I remember Nahas posted the exact amount of days the other day. I think it was like the patch has been up for like 167 days or something.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, because it's now it's the longest running patch for any given period of time. I think the previous longest patch was like 140 something days. So have you been like learning new things in the last like month or two, or has it been more of like more of the same?
I think the patch is kind of in a weird spot where like I think pretty much every team plays Dota differently.
Yeah.
They pick different heroes. They play it with a different style. Even though we're so far into the patch, there's like no real kind of like universally agreed on best way to play this game, which is kind of cool. But on the other hand, I think especially the people who are kind of losing and bored and not really mastered anything, it's like, man, can we get a new patch already so we can kind of figure something new out or something? So,
yeah,
it's kind of on one hand, I like seeing how like the current meta is and how creative everyone is, but on the other hand, I think it is about time to kind of push the reset button and give us something different.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like that's what's coming. With I think it was Owie had an interview that came out today on Reddit. We're recording this. I'm not sure when it's going to come out, but we're recording this on November 17th. So I know Owie had a post where he was saying that some of the devs said that the next patch is really going to change the game, and that's coming out right after Boston Major. So I think we're in for a big one, that's for sure, and hopefully it'll be just as good as this one, but shorter, because no matter how good the patch is, 180 days in or whatever, it's not that new anymore. Even if new heroes are getting picked up, like Clockwork has suddenly like been a top tier pick at the summit.
Well,
I don't know about tier, but
a lot of it's like just a circle, right? Like if one hero gets picked a lot, some other hero is going to end up getting picked a lot, and then other heroes kind of rotate into the cycle and stuff like that. I didn't really hear exactly what AUI said on his pod or his interview, but
I'll be honest, I didn't read the whole thing either. I just saw a headline, and
I saw
that's how news. That's how articles work. You just read the headline and then you're done.
I am a vocal Dota 2 hater, so I just kind of avoided that completely. But I did read the headline, and that was insightful, and it led to like a minute of talking. So I mean, that's the dream, right? Podcast content.
Good research.
Yeah, uninformed show hosts make for good content. All right.
Well, what's been new in the world of fiving? Right, it's pretty much just Warlock. Has there been anything else that's like been trending?
Warlock.
Shadow Demon's still good, but he's out a little bit. But like,
Shadow Demon is like not good anymore. I think most people don't play that hero. Warlock is pretty much the biggest invention. No idea why. I think some teams have been picking this for a really long time. But
are you not on the Warlock train?
I think it's fine. Warlock is good. It's I can't remember what team. One team has been picking Warlock for like years and like forever. It was like MVP. Yeah. And
they play like mid and shit.
Yeah, they were picking at this patch too. Like really, like as soon as TI ended, they started picking Warlock for their new team. Like it's like Reason or something. He always played Warlock, and they would keep play like every game. And I don't understand how, like. Well, it's more about the same patch thing where everyone kind of like plays their own style and they pick what they're good at, and it just turns out that they've known all along that this is like really good hero.
They played it mostly as like a Shadow Demon counter, which sounds like what the fuck. Like there's no obvious synergy between the two, but just like I don't know, someone comes out of the egg and you fatal bonds them, or like Shadow Demon can't really do with Golem or something. I don't know, but
it was Ehome, I think, at TI. They also picked as a Shadow Demon counter. They would pick every game that the other team had Shadow Demon, but that was like a different patch or different. Well, not like completely different patch, but some of them, they were like obviously better supports. Oracle and Shadow Demon were like super top tier, and now it's like since the top tier heroes are nerfed, it's a little more up in the air on like what's good. So Warlock, I guess, is the thing now. Sure, there are other heroes that'll pop up eventually, but for now,
what is your favorite 5 to play right now? Like, if we had to first pick you a 5,
I play Wisp a lot. I hear it's pretty fun.
Jesus.
Yeah. We've been talking for months that one of us needs to learn how to play Wisp, and now it's no longer.
It's not going to be me. I'm going to tell you in advance right now.
It was formerly going to be me, and then we role switched, and now thank God I don't have to learn that because that hero is hard. And I know Proud and I think it was not recently, but a long time ago on the show, we ran it up against some like 6K, 7K Wisp spammer. And
was it the Wisp Pudge aggro dual lane that my fucking lone druid tutor told me ahead of time who it was? Jesus Christ.
Yeah. No, it was Wisp Tusk, actually. But.
Oh, yeah, they ran that every game. Yeah, damn, have you ever run into these people, StanKing? I don't know if they do it anymore. I called you StanKing. That's beautiful. Anyway, it's like this duo that I think they're around 6, almost 7K, and all they do is they play like Wisp +1 offlane, normally Wisp Tusk. And they do it a shit ton.
Yeah.
You run into that? I know Wisp dual offlane is pretty popular right now, but...
I don't know exactly who you're talking about, but I do know that dual Q, pretty much the most fun hero to play is Wisp with something else. I think that's how I got started on playing Wisp too. Kind of like playing Party Q with my friends. I played a lot of Wisp, and it was really enjoyable because when you're winning, it's like probably the most fun hero in the game. You just like run at everything.
Yeah, for sure.
So, do you also play Wisp in like solo queue though? Is that one of your?
Yeah. So I got 8K pretty much exclusively by playing Wisp. I got like
absolute madman.
I got like 16 wins in a row or something at one point with Wisp.
Jeez.
Is it? 8K.
So obviously, I think Wisp is one of those like super divisive heroes from like MMR bracket to MMR bracket, where is it like just that much better in like high MMRs playing Wisp? Is it mostly because the pool of people is smaller, so you run into more people that like that may be more used to like you being a Wisp spammer, or is it just like people are just better and therefore are used to playing with Wisp? And because obviously, like if you don't have that communication between you and whatever random person is in your pub, relocate ganks and all that kind of stuff can get incredibly difficult.
It's a good hero to kind of spam mic with, yell at your team with. When you're relocating, you make it very, very clear that you're relocating, and no one really kind of ever gets caught off guard. People on the enemy team tend to play worse against Wisps than kind of like any sort of handicap your team gets from playing with it, in my personal experience. So, like, other people don't know how to play against it, and your team doesn't know how to play with it, but the fact that they don't know how to play against it is like outweighs the fact that your team doesn't know how to play with it.
Oh, kind of like I used to think that way. It's less so now because he's been out for a while, but I played a ton of, I still play a bit of Oracle, but I used to play a ton of Oracle when he first came out, when he was super OP also. But when he first came out, like people just didn't know how he worked, and still to a certain extent, especially in lower MR brackets, this is true. People still don't know how that hero works, or like super out of meta heroes like like Lena. I went back to playing Lena mid because like she's one of my comfort heroes, even though she's super unpopular right now, and people just like hadn't seen her, so they would like drastically underestimate my damage output and stuff like that. Yeah. So that's definitely like an aspect though with Wisp. I can see that because I honestly can't think of the last time I played against a Wisp in a not 5-stack game.
Yeah,
when someone randomed
it. When's that happening? Is like because like Wisp, it's like a hero where if you feed him kills, if you feed him like earn charges, he can just heal a guy up, and you kind of have to kill him first, or else he's going to do a lot of healing. So if you don't know how to play against it, like sometimes like literally no one hits you. You're just standing there, and they're hitting the guy that's healing for like 600 HP constantly, and then he's like basically not losing any HP, and they just keep hitting him, and you're just like, cool. I'll just be here.
Yeah. Is Wisp actually? I had never thought about this. Is Wisp like negatively affected by all the Warlock in this meta now that Fatal
Yeah,
Bonds?
Warlock is a very good hero against Wisp.
Yeah.
I won't say it's like a counter or anything, but it's certainly not enjoyable to play against.
Yeah.
I never thought about that before. All right, so let's hop into our segment. So today we're going to be talking about, being that we have StanKing on here, we are going to be talking about how
Did
you
call
can
him
carry.
StanKing?
No, I definitely did not call him that. I said
That's
Stan.
rude, man.
And then
He's a fucking guest.
yeah, you called him StanKing, all right, buddy. Let's keep
StanKing
this
is a
moving.
great hero. That's a compliment.
Yeah. Okay. Well, on that note, let's talk about our segment. We're going to be talking about how you support lower MMR players and carry them to victory while being a support, which typically, like in most people's minds, they think like, oh, I have to win this game and I'm the highest MMR. I'm going to go mid, or I'm going to play safe lane, or I'm going to dominate the off lane playing StanKing or playing Underlord or some garbage. But obviously, StanKing is the testament to being able to climb and get super high MMR as a support player, and in his case, an exclusively support player. So what is like your general prerogative when you're thinking, all right, I'm 7,800 MMR, my teammates are all 5,000, and I need to like bring these people into a winning condition, despite the fact that I'm playing, fifth position, and I have some random 5K I've never met before playing, Mirana mid or what have you.
Yeah. My general attitude in those games is pretty much as soon as I get a game with where all my team is 5Ks, I just oh my gosh, this game's gonna be so hard. I don't. It's usually like gonna be like one of the most frustrating experiences you can kind of deal with, just because.
All right, good start. Good start.
Yeah.
But this obviously when you queue into these games, there's nothing you can do. Right? You just kind of have to accept it and kind of play on. I think a general game plan is to kind of make the other 7K or 8K, whoever's in your game, as annoyed as possible and make his game very miserable. Because if you kind of leave him to be, he's going to make your 5Ks into clowns or whatever, and he's going to destroy your guy mid, and he's going to kind of solo kill people, and then you're just going to be in a very, very sad situation. So I like the heroes who kind of can mess with that player, specifically like Skywrath Mage is a really good one. Bounty Hunter is a good one. Heroes that kind of bother one player a lot to kind of make sure that he doesn't have an enjoyable game.
That makes sense.
And then you cross your fingers and
Oh no, sorry. Go on. Your words are more important than mine.
yeah, and then you end up crossing
That was
your
not me
fingers.
joking. That was serious. Go on.
You end up like crossing your fingers and hoping that your 5Ks will carry you. So,
Yeah. Do you? So this is actually a bit of a different question. Nowadays, I know like previously, their population wise, like 5K plus, 6K plus was much smaller. Nowadays, when you're playing solo queue as like a 7,800 player, are your games mostly like populated by 6K plus, or is it like how it used to be? I know like watching RTZ streams and all these high MMR streams like a year ago or so, it would be like, oh well, he's like 8K. So all his teams would be 5K and it'd be all against 6Ks. Is it still that dynamic, or do you now have more like even like 6K plus games despite your MMR?
I usually try and queue when I have people playing with me. So like when a lot of 7K players are playing or 8K players are playing, so I don't get into those sort of situations where it's like me against 5Ks with 5Ks or something. That's just like not enjoyable for anybody, basically. So none of the 5Ks really want to play against 8Ks either. And pretty much none of the 8Ks want to play 5Ks either.
Yeah,
So
and you don't want to
like,
have those like plus 45 or plus 5 minus 45 kind of games either.
Yeah, they kind of got rid of those, thank God. But yeah, it used to be really, really bad when they had those games.
Yeah.
But in general, like no one wants to play those sort of games. So for everyone's sake, we just kind of like the high MMR players tend to queue together so that they don't get those sort of issues.
Yeah, that makes sense. So going back to what you said about picking Skywrath in these kind of situations, I know I'm going to give you credit for it. Because I know one of the meta things to do nowadays is to do even on support Skywrath, like start with a null. And I've seen it also on support Silencer and another few like roaming 5 or 4 supports that are int based. What is kind of the rationale behind that? Because honestly, I started doing it after I saw you do it, and I was like, man, this is awesome. But I still didn't completely get it. I was just like, man, this is working, and I like it.
Most of the time, you want to do a lot of damage by pressing like your skill a lot of times. So like with Silencer, you want to glaive them a lot, so you want more int to kind of be able to do that. With Scout Wrath Mage, you want to be able to use your Arcane Orb as many times as possible, so the null gives you more damage and more Arcane Orbs because you get more int. And then you kind of like forego Tango so that you don't have to spend the 125 gold on them. And then what you end up doing is kind of like suiciding to kind of heal your HP and your mana, and then resetting and doing it again.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Because I was thinking, if you're playing Skywrath and you're trying to spam Arcane Bolt or what have you, you'd think logically, like, all right, well, I'll get more out if I just like bring out, a Sobi Mask or like a bunch of Clarities or something. But if you're doing the like whole suicide trick, then that definitely makes that definitely lends a lot more credence and makes a lot more sense out of that. So that's good to know.
I feel like everyone is just getting a lot better at using suicide as like an early game tool. Like, Am I wrong about that? I feel like I see way more suicides.
Suiciding has gone to a very, very extreme level. I think Iceberg needs to step in and nerf it because it's a little bit stupid now.
Aggressively dying is too good. Please fix.
Yes. I'm watching the EG game right now, and he just suicides. So
yeah, when is like
especially with Pudge, fuck that. You should have like it should be like a Necrophos thing. You suicide, like you fucking take longer to respawn. The same.
I just watched 3 people suicide in the EG game in a row. So 4 people. Sorry, 4 people.
Oh, Jesus Christ! All right, then we're suiciding in Dota 2.
Yeah. What is like the break point for suiciding where it like stops being worth it? Because I know there are breakpoints, especially with junglers, where like we traditionally like that's the thing that I see suicide most, where it's like, okay, well I just spent all my money and I'm gonna just suicide easy. But is there like a specific level, or like obviously unreliable gold is important regarding this, but is there like a time where it's like, oh, I'm level 4. If I suicide now, it's not worth it. Whereas if I was level 3, it'd be great and I'd be awesome.
Level 4 is usually kind of the breakpoint. The idea behind suiciding is even if you were to walk to base, you'd have to heal in Fountain anyways. Because it takes you like from full HP, it takes you 20 seconds to heal from no HP to full HP. So if you have no HP and no mana anyways, like you might as well just kind of go suicide because you're going to be standing in Fountain for 20 seconds anyways, and it'll take you 20 seconds to walk to base, so it's a total of like 40 seconds. So it's like not worth your time. So basically, and also there's like a risk of you dying to something random, right? If some hero pops out of nowhere and you're just dead. So
or Sunstrike or a fucking Nyx or Bounty Hunter, yeah.
Yep. And then at the end of the day, it's like maybe 30, 60, 90 gold or something. Like it's not very much gold early on in the game. It's like the cost of you buying like 1 salve. So it's not that big of a deal.
That's an interesting way to think about it. I never thought about it like in the salve relative to it's like a salve that costs you time instead of gold, I suppose.
Yeah,
and a clarity.
All right, so that you heard it here first. We should all work in dying to our play more. Great.
It sounds silly, but honestly, that's like
it's
takeaway.
It's real, yeah. No, like I'm sure I don't die enough as I support, mostly because I don't play support enough.
Yeah,
so,
my records tend to be really disgusting looking. I have like 10 deaths or something, and half of them are. I played.
Oh my god!
I played a game once.
I can't even imagine that. Finishing a game and then just like your mids just like, oh, my support fed, and it was like these were purpose deaths. I wanted to die.
I think I played a game where in the first 4 minutes I suicided 6 times.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that was pretty enjoyable.
Yeah, that makes me think we were talking about this on the show a while ago, but our offlaner, there were a few times where he would like die and then it would end up just working out for him. So he was practically just like, yeah, I basically just suicided the offlane so long as I don't get first blooded or anything. That way I can come back and have full health, full mana, and their supports are like down to like 1 tango each and have no mana and they can't zone me anymore.
Yeah, the creep wave equilibrium is all fucked up.
Yeah. So that's the strategy, I suppose. All right.
No, I have a real question. All right, so you mentioned heroes like a Skywrath and Bounty Hunters. So I feel like there's like 2 ways that normally I kind of approach supporting players worse than me. There's either like elevating them to a higher MMR, like making them play like, making your 5Ks play like 6Ks, or picking like a really kind of like greedy MMR that or a really like a greedy-ish support that you're hoping can like transition to still be helpful late game, or like actually be core status. Like maybe you play a Silencer because you hope you just spiral out of control because you're good, or a Lion because your stuns are going to be viable the whole time. But if I think about like Skywrath and Bounty, like those heroes are not like you're not going to be able to pull any weight late game with those. So what's your kind of thought process there? Is that intentional?
Yeah, you just kind of put all your eggs in the early game basket. Make sure you snowball. Both those heroes kind of snowball really well. If you get a few kills, if you do well early game, then you pretty like with Skyrath, you can solo kill cores. If you get enough levels.
Yeah.
With Bounty Hunter, you can like rack up the track gold. You know, you buy your real items. Kind of, if you're very farmed, like the game is really really easy.
Yeah. And even if your 5Ks can't farm, like Bounty Hunter kind of makes up for that.
Yep. And then people tend to leave the game when they die like 4 times. So
yeah, the tilt factor.
Yes, if you can make someone very very angry, the game is very very quick.
That's one strategy, that's for sure. That's like that's like my favorite Night Stalker strategy, where he's just like, yeah, I normally wouldn't BM, but I just go in all chat and just put question marks every time I get kills because I forget what guy that was. That was the demigod Dota guide or whatever to Night Stalker. All right, Proud, do you have any more questions before we hop into what we're actually going to be playing?
I don't really feel like this guy's a lot to teach me, so we can just move on.
All right, perfect. So for today, compared to normal, where we just pick 2 heroes, we're actually just kind of going to go into this game more or less blind, other than the fact that we know that our support player is going to have like nearly double our MMR. So we're going to try to put this dynamic into practice, I suppose, and have StanKing carry us to victory. We dream, we hope. We'll see, I suppose.
No promises.
Yeah. Oh, trust me, no promises either. I mean, we'll see. I could just feed out of control in my lane too. So, on that note, so it sounds like we're gonna probably see some of these like active early game supports, because that's your general prerogative when it comes to supporting players worse than you and carrying like your random pub to victory, compared to going for the like, oh, I'm gonna outscale them mentality and picking something greedy.
Yeah.
All right, so that sounds good to me. Proud,
yeah. Do you have any like idiot proof core? Like, do you like people playing idiot proof cores? Do you like them like just play Spectre and you'll get there? Don't worry about being good. Like, what's your preference for your cores?
I think I usually tell my offlaner to play StanKing. It's like the thing I have the most success with.
There we go. That's what I want to hear.
I think that one's the best, just because it's pretty easy to kind of win your lane if you get some help. So that one's probably a favorite of mine. Other than that, I don't think I really care that much. As long as people don't pick like I don't know. Actually, I don't really care what people pick. It's beyond my control, you know. Who am I to deny someone their true love of playing Spectre off lane or something, you know?
Yeah, you gotta let Bone 7 do what Bone 7 do.
Yeah. On that note, I have actually a completely different question. We have been seeing a lot of Pudge this patch, and do you have like an answer to Pudge, or do you think like how is he going to be nerfed? I'm honestly, we had team practice last night, and boy, Pudge is just a menace, and I'm like, I think we're in a constant state of frustration, unless like, except for Pudge players, obviously Pudge players are thrilled, but Pudge is just like in every game. I know Dota Buff just put out a stat today that Pudge is picked in more games than the bottom 20 or 25 heroes all put together. Like, what do you think about Pudge this patch, honestly, as like a roaming 4?
I think he's always been a very popular hero.
Well, yeah,
but he's never been a really competitive hero. But yeah, right now in this meta, like Pudge just does a lot of freaking damage. Like the hook does 360 pure damage. I think that one was
on like what, an 8-second cooldown, 10-second cooldown.
And it brings you into a place that you probably don't want to be in. So. Oh yeah, that was. I think someone finally realized, this hero is actually kind of stupid. I think people have lost a lot of games just by one Pudge hooking them into their base or something, and then GG. So that I can understand why it's good. It just kind of doesn't make sense to me how it took people this long to kind of figure it out.
Yeah. All right, I'm glad we're agreed there. I was like, partially I was hoping for vindication, where it's like, all right, yeah, even like the pro players, like, yeah, he's a really good hero. But then on the other level, I was hoping there was going to be some godly answer where it's like, oh, well, just pick X against it, and then suddenly like, oh, Pudge is not a problem. But Pudge is always a problem for me.
Pudge is a bit pretty big. There are some heroes that are kind of excel against it. Like Lifestealer and Ursa are 2 very good heroes against it, because you actually just hit him and he dies very easily, very quickly. So
okay, well,
other than that, I don't know, pick heroes that can't get solo killed. That's good.
All right. So on that note, I think we're gonna hop into our game, and then of course you can watch our VODs on YouTube.com/.ptv1. That's numeric 1. We'll have my perspective and Proud's perspective, of course, for your choice of heroes, and then we'll be back after the break, and we will discuss what heroes we picked, what strategies we did, and what ended up with the game. Maybe we'll win, maybe we'll lose. Who knows?
I know.
I hope you know, because at least somebody will.
I'm knowledgeable. Okay, I don't actually like this set of comments. Let's go.
That's fine. All right, hello everyone, we're back. We have just completed our game. It was decidedly a game. We definitely spent time in a match of Dota 2. I can confirm that. The game could have gone better. First off, we played unranked, unlike usual, because queue times would have been way too long. I suppose that's the that's the problem with playing with people that are 3,000 and more higher than you. So what ended up happening was we were a 3-stack and we had a 2-stack with us, and the enemy team was a 5-stack that don't lose a lot, and they tried real hard, and then we lost. That being said, let's just go into what actually happened in the game. The team comps, as they were on their team, mid Death Prophet, a roaming, or was it an offlane Pudge, right? Offlane Pudge, who ended up roaming.
Indeed it was.
They had a safe lane anti-mage, Witch Doctor, and Spirit Breaker. The Spirit Breaker, not surprisingly, was also roaming. Our team, we had a mid Juggernaut, played by me, a safe lane Morphling, played by Proud, a StanKing on the Skyrath that we were discussing earlier, roaming around, and our off lane was a dual lane of 2 people that randomed, and they had Tusk Quap, and those were the teams. As you can see, comp-wise, the enemy team, they had quite the 5-man, it turns out. And that's what they did. Also, the Pudge, did Pudge things. As we were talking about it in the game, or rather in the earlier portion of the podcast, the Pudge turned out to be quite the problem. Turns out that hero is quite good, especially when he makes a lot of hooks. And he had a Blink Dagger at what? I have to actually look. I think he had a Blink Dagger at like 12 minutes. Let's see.
Something like that. We do have this handy fucking graph, right?
Yeah, he picked it up at 12:19.
God bless.
And that was a problem. Can confirm. So let's discuss the game, I suppose. StanKing, how did you feel your roaming went?
I think it was a little unfortunate. We had a couple kills that I think turned out it could have gone better. And usually when you kind of miss kills, it's a little taxing. So
yeah.
I don't remember exactly what happened, but I think we were a little bit off, and if we had a little more damage, it would have killed them.
Yeah.
But if you get those kills, like the lane becomes easier, and you can make more moves and stuff like that. So, nothing was going right. We couldn't kill anyone, so
it was definitely one of those games where like we got close to a whole bunch of kills, and then like right at Rune was the first mistake where we were like, all right, let's kill Death Prophet, and then she had like 5 or 10 more movement speed or whatever at base than Juggernaut, and I just spun and I was not even touching her. It was one of those things where like the end of the spin was touching like her, like the animations looked like they were touching, and like I should be doing damage, but I was not doing damage, and so that did not work. And then there's one gank where Tusk rotated and he like I couldn't catch up with Blade Fury because she was faster than me, but then he snowballed me in, and I had ult up, but then my Blade Fury was still running, and I couldn't just poppy ult immediately, and so then I couldn't like ult her and finish her off, so she got away. And then I know we had another couple times where the classic thing happens where you try a gank, you almost kill people, and then they get return kills, and then like everything is just ruined. So that was definitely what happened mid lane wise, and then their safe lane AM farmed quite a bit against their duo. How'd top go though?
Top was okay. It was a little bit rough having because so my general philosophy is if you have a shit offlaner like a Pudge, It's like definitely worth at least some investment to just like fuck around and shit him out of the lane like immediately. And like we did do that, but having that Tusk like dual off lane and then the like Skywrath was like helping mid a lot made it so the Pudge definitely like I was getting farm for sure. But then Pudge 100% was, whereas if you don't have a team with like a Tusk off lane and that sort of thing, or a dual Tusk off lane, like then you can just immediately punish the Pudge and like not let him get anything.
Yeah,
I think we had a kill or two on Pudge too that could have went our way.
It was whenever we had the presence up there, he was just like totally out. But having to help the other lanes with that, like with the Tusk off lane, like taxing it further, it was pretty brutal.
Yeah, Pudge got a couple really like I don't want to say lucky because there's a huge element of skill to it, but he had a couple really clinch suicides. And that was rough. I think the first time he died, the Quap killed him and got like almost 900 gold at like 13 minutes. Like his bounty was absurd. He ended up being 15 and 6, and I think of those 6 deaths, probably like 3 or 4 were suicides. So as much as like this game kind of was just a complete mess, I think there's something that we can get into farther. In that, let's.
You know what? Wait, I'm actually. I think I'm looking at the net worth now, and like at about like 6 minutes before DP rotated top, like I was very much on top, and Pudge wasn't. Pudge was worse off than our Queen of Pain. So I think overall, it actually like the lane, at least my lane, worked out just fine.
Yeah, my lane did not. I think like. I think most of our fighting was centralized to mid, right? And things just did not go great. Like they had
it's just the Breaker, right? Because like Breaker is so good. I mean, like he's great at ganking mid, but more of like the counter initiate. Like after you use 2 spells and then Breaker is charging, like you can't say shit about that. And he like completely swings the entire momentum of the lane.
Yeah, and we didn't have like the classic like you just stun him to stop his dives. We like don't have any stuns on our team outside of like Tusk Snowball.
My W man, so fucking good.
Yeah. So the grand scheme of things could have gone better. But I have a question for Stan that's more pertinent and more relative to the larger aspect of the game compared to one individual game where we got tryharded by a 5-stack. I want to talk about like how to deal with these 5-man push comps where like they have some early momentum and they just like parlay that into like these kind of grand pushes and they just do tons of like these unified action that we just obviously that game like it's largely comp based, but also like our play clearly just did not mirror theirs, mirror theirs. So other than like the super basic things like you just split push with the hero or you rep around them, how would you in general deal with one of these kind of like 5-man push comps with like Witch Doctor and Death Prophet ult, etc.?
I think the best way to stop like 5-man-y kind of strats is you just kill them early. Like your lanes tend to have to go well, and if you kind of put a stop to their push before they gets there, like gets to where they're set up, it makes it a lot easier. So you kind of want to make sure that you kind of battle them early, have ganks go well, shut them down early game, and then they'll never really get set up to their full potential.
Gotcha. That makes sense. That was definitely
in the context of the game we just played. It's kind of like a lot of things could have gone right for us, and then the game would have been a lot easier, and they never would have gotten to the point where they could just run down lanes and take all the towers with DP ult. So it's a little unfortunate, and sometimes things happen. So
yeah. Well, we only suffered for like 31 minutes, so it could have been much worse, right? They didn't like fountain farm us with Pudge, which is always a good thing because you never know in a Pudge game. This could easily have gone 40 minutes, and they could have decided, let's sit outside. Spirit Breaker really just felt like the problem. Like one of the core problems for me. We've been seeing a lot of Spirit Breaker, at least just coincidentally, in pubs recently, and boy, that here is pretty good. I know Pride and I were talking about we should just start picking the Spirit Breaker for Flub because boy, that's you don't know Flub, but he is the hyper aggressive.
Like, Flub. Shouldn't he play at StanKing? Yeah, he knows.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I mean, Flub is, as an archetype, everybody knows a Flub. But anyway, he's the type of player that's just super, super aggressive, even when like we don't need to be, and that's like the most Spirit Breaker-esque player. He's also a Pudge picker, so that should give you the full view of him. All right, Pratt, I think you want to get into in this game?
Yeah, I just a lot of times when like you play a game and you want to go back and you look on it, you're like, was there just a fucking fundamental issue like were our heroes just shit, or should we not even look at that and just be like, all right, the issue was like such and such engagements went wrong, and like looking at the team comp doesn't really matter too much. It's just like the fact is that, you know, we lost a fight and then we lost Dota. Sometimes that's how it works. Is that like what you look at that? Like you said, the early kills just like didn't work out in our favor, and that's kind of like the main thing that, you know, you would want to, like, you know, we had the tools, but just, you know, don't fucking, you know, misexecute or fuck up those kills next time. Is that kind of the takeaway from that game?
I think heroes tend to be a smaller deal than kind of just making sure that you visualize how the kills work out and getting those kills. If we got a few kills, the game would have been a lot easier. Like, people would have been stronger. You would have got more kills.
Yeah.
That's just how Dota works. Like, it's like a lot of Dota is about snowballing, where if you kind of mess up, make one mistake or make a few mistakes early game, it translates into a harder game later on. So I think in that game especially, like, we pretty much spent like 10 minutes running around trying to get kills, and no kills happened. So a lot of them, you know, were good ideas, I think, and it just got a little unlucky or misexecuted. But sometimes that's just how it is. And
Okay. So
yeah, on to the next game.
Is that the general, but like overall, like the thought behind a lot of your early movements and that sort of thing? Is that kind of like representative of what you would what you would want a game to look like as the higher MMR? Yeah, playing a support, just like a lot of early trying to get kills and
I would have
execution
preferred. I would have preferred if those ganks worked. That's all.
Right. Yeah. Okay. But the general
but,
idea
know,
behind, like, you know, go for them kills, fuck up mid lane, all that shit.
Yep. And I think the general consensus is you don't have to win all your games. Sometimes things happen, and you get games where either like, ganks don't go well, things go badly, whatever. You only have to win more than half of them, so don't be too much angst when stuff happens.
Yeah, we didn't lose MMR, right? So.
That is true. I did lose my win rate, you know.
That's
slightly lower now.
Yeah, your Dota buff is gonna look less polished, so that Skywrath pristine win rate gone, tarnished forever.
My KDA, dude.
Yeah, the KD. Yeah, well, I mean, if you keep suiciding for fucking gain, KDA is not long for this world, my friend.
Yeah, Ice Frog has strategically undermined everybody's KDA because of how good suiciding is. That's definitely, I don't know. This whole game, really, it just, I don't know. I feel as though when I lose an unranked game, it's like I get it out of my system and I get stomped and I'm okay with it. And that way, like, I'm building up to be like, all right, when I play like actual serious games, it's like, okay, you know, these games are going to be fair. We're not just going to get stomped by some pudge player. But then, you know, obviously that's just entirely mental. All right, so I think a pertinent question would be, if you had to change something in this game other than obviously like the you know, obviously if we got some of the kills that we were close to getting, like maybe comp wise, like is there a mid when you're playing like a
I wish I was Lone Druid.
I think if we had a hero that was more independent and as a carry, that would have been a little bit better, considering we had like a dual off lane. Morphling, I mean, it worked out fine because Morphling kind of got all the farm, but we definitely needed more presence just because, you know, like the two people off lane really wanted to just run around and try and kill people. And to really win against our plan to have people farming.
So when you play these like roaming intensive, you know, very aggressive early mid supports, what kind of mids are your preference? Like I ended up playing Jug mid, which
Jug is fine.
Yeah,
I think we just messed up a few of those kills. That's all.
Yeah,
had nothing to do with the hero.
Yeah, I know the like. I've been playing a bunch of Jug mid recently, and the core issue for me at least was like she got boots advantage on me after I think like that first like skirmish that didn't go great. And then it's like, okay, well, my primary offensive ability is just to spin at her, and obviously I could not do that.
Most Jugs, like, I think they skip bottle and just get boots.
Oh, yeah?
Kind of nullify that advantage. Just try not to lose too much HP in lane. Get Healing Word early, so if you do lose HP, you kind of use Healing Word to heal up.
Gotcha. I've been toying around with a few different like skill builds and item builds recently. So normally you'd say like they'd get like their phase and then get bottle after that, or just skip bottle entirely and just have like Aki whatever.
I think people would just skip bottle sometimes. I'm not too sure. I think it's game dependent, but I've seen a lot of bottle skipping.
Okay, yeah. Guys, I've seen a mixed bag.
There's a lot of shit, man. There's like so much Jugman stuff that's like meta for like 3 weeks and then not the next.
Getting Healing Word is probably important, just because you tend to lose HP and not mana. So
you want to use your mana with Healing Word rather than spin.
Okay. Yeah, because I've seen it played both ways, where I've seen people just like super aggressively just like spin every time it's off cooldown and
Yeah.
take an entire thing, push the lane, go get a rune, go take a neutral camp, or spin at the enemy, whatever matchup it is, or in certain matchups, and then, force them to pop salve early, etc. And then, like, recently, what I liked was having like 1 point in stats by 4, and then you have ult, and then you have like that tiny little bit of wiggle room, because otherwise it's like, okay, if I have any missing mana, I can't use all my abilities. But yeah, I definitely needed Healing Ward in that matchup. The Death Prophet versus Jug matchup was just not pleasant. I haven't played against the Death Prophet in a while either. That's to hear that. I know, Pride, you said you'd been seeing a bit more Death Prophet recently, but I can't remember the last time I played against a Death Prophet.
Yeah, pretty much specifically when I play Morphling, I see it, because like you normally want to, normally they last pick mid, and you want to pick Morphling when they don't have a great counter, and then like, oh shit, we need an AOE silence that's not going to be blocked by Linken's, and then you see a Death Prophet. But yeah.
All right. Well, I feel as though we have mined this game for all we can.
Yeah.
Okay, so on that note, I think if we just have some closing notes on this, I suppose. Let's go for like a very general Dota question to ask StanKing. So when you're aiming just to like set out to climb up to like a next MMR point, whether it's like, oh, I want to hit 4K or 5K or 6K or what have you, like, what is your best like single piece of advice, or your single piece of like strategy that you've employed or what have you, when you're trying to like hit those next breakpoints, or or just get better at the game in general, not even counting the MMR aspect, but just saying like, oh well, I'm trying to improve, what should I do?
I think the biggest piece of advice you can have for climbing MMR is just making sure that you're not kind of irritated by what happens inside the game. Like, there's a lot of things in Dota that are like outside of your control just by virtue of it being a team game. Mm-hmm. So kind of putting all your like emotional eggs in the teammates' basket tends to lead to a lot of unhappiness. So kind of just brushing off what people do what you can to stop people from doing bad things, but not really kind of thinking about it too much, because you can't really change it. So I like being emotionally stable, and that leads to me being able to play more games and kind of try to climb more MMR and stuff.
That definitely sounds like the support player's mentality. That's for sure. And I agree completely. That's how I tend to go about it. All right, Prad, do you have any final questions before we start plugging stuff?
Yeah, this is about my least favorite question to ever ask, but I feel like it's worth it just in case. Is there anything that at some point maybe you realize some like major flaw in your play that was holding you back, like any big moment, any big epiphany on the kind of thing that brought you from like a mid 6K player to like pushing 8K and like being able to captain probably like one of the best teams in North America?
Not really. Just a lot of slow progress. Nothing like big. I would say maybe like working as a team, like in terms of like working with your pub players a lot, kind of like talking to them. Even the unresponsive ones, you just kind of have to try your best to kind of work with. But Dota is, in the end of the day, like Dota is a team game, and you're not going to be able to win the game on your own. So you just have to do what you can to kind of work with each other and make the best happen of certain situations.
It makes sense. It definitely the classic I'm just going to mute all my teammates and play my own game thing tends not to work great. I know I've tried that method out myself, and it's not the best when it turns out you have 4 other people on your team every game.
Yeah.
All right, so Stan, let's plug your stuff. Your stream, is it just Stan_King?
Yeah, it's Stan_King.
All right, I can personally recommend it. It's a lot of fun, especially if you're a support player. It definitely opened my eyes to support play that I was not familiar with, because I'm not an aggressive player, and these kind of like roaming support things, even like not your traditional roaming 4, but like a roaming 5 support, is just super interesting. So I can highly recommend it. I can't ascribe a specific amount of MMR you will gain from watching Stan play, but it will be an amount.
You'll probably lose some MMR.
I do want to say, like, I was really ready to be like, this motherfucker is like not even in my fucking lane, and I'm a Morphling against a Pudge. But it was like every time he was in my lane, it was like fucking like 90% of the help that I would want from him being in my lane like all the time. And then every time he was out, it was like when I didn't really need the help in the first place. So that was it was nice to see like what an absent support can like actually, or what like a roaming support not getting babysat all the time, because that's one of our problems in ham is like, you know, if I don't get support, normally it just goes to shit like immediately. But in that situation, like, I mean, Skywrath is a fan-fucking-tastic zoner, but I don't know, it was just like very expertly done, the amount of like time that you were like in there, and then it was like the exact time that you needed to be putting out like the exact amount of pressure that was needed, and then you would like fucking be gone. Like the tempo was like totally there, and I like that a lot. So if you want to see like a nice kind of tempo to that sort of thing, definitely watch the VOD, and that was like super impressive when you talk about like a roaming 5.
I'm sure you're giving me too much credit. I just kind of ran around.
I don't think I do that. I don't like you that much, so I'm speaking from the heart.
Yeah, Proud does not give a lot of credit unless it's super due, especially to support players.
If a support isn't in my lane and I'm not upset, like something has to be going right.
All right, so and then your Twitter is what, at StanKing Dota? Stan,
Yep,
I
StanKing Dota.
You'd think I would have looked this up beforehand, but but yeah, so that's all well and good.
And if you want to see us three win a game, it is in our fucking VOD library on YouTube. It's Tiny Bounty Hunter, where StanKing is playing not a support, which kind of leads to, if you watch that game, then you'll see like, oh, so and that's why he's a support, because that was the game that we're actually. Let's just re-upload that one. Does that sound okay? I think we should just, and then we'll be like, oh yeah, Ember support.
That was my support Ember spirit.
Yeah, no, of course. And we were talking about like the best thing to do is to like, you know, just be a lightning rod for their aggression to help your 5Ks, right?
Yeah. Of course.
It's like the classic pick a Spectre so that they just are like, oh boy, we got to stop the Spectre early game, and then they just gank your Spectre over and over again, and your mid has tons of space. It's the ultimate strategy.
Turns out you had a jungle AM the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, so that is actually a good point, that game does exist, and it is from a while ago. I feel like that was
when Tiny was playable. He's so fucking bad now. Holy shit, I hate that hero.
All right, so yeah, you get to actually check that game out. I'm glad that you remember to plug that, because that is actually a learning game, that's for sure. I think that one only has my POV though, because you were not yet recording POVs at that point. Anyway, and you can of course watch the VODs from today if you so choose on our YouTube channel .ptv1. We have both our POVs up. Even though we did lose, like, I actually think from a shot calling perspective, it is like a interesting thing to see, like the patterns of aggression and all that. And you can watch me mess ganks up, which is fine. You know that everybody's got to make mistakes sometime. It's usually not in ham practice that I make them. So making them in random pubs, with much better players, is the way to do it, I suppose. And of course, you can find our website, defenseofpatience.com, everything there, Amazon banner, etc. We currently don't have in-houses. In-house season stopped this past week, and it'll be back, I believe, either after Thanksgiving or after the major. I'm not sure exactly. Yell at Growdy Dota for that. He's runs all the in-houses. They're always a good time, so show up to those. Hopefully, us Hakuna Marana members will be able to change our practice day so that we can actually get back to casting and doing some in-house work. But that remains to be seen. On Twitter, also, I'm at Ursinity. Proud is at Proud Dota. We stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/.ptv. And other than that, you know, patreon.com/defenseofpatience. Get replay reviews, commission podcasts, all support us. iTunes reviews help us stay visible, help us get great guests like StanKing, especially for the Thursday show. Because StanKing, I think you are like our, what would you say, probably like third guest or something?
Like, I don't know
second?
how to count past 2, dude, so you're on your own.
Second. So this is like, hopefully we have more guests.
It's our third. No, we had Tsunami and Lurko.
Oh, yes, that's who it was. I knew there were a couple people.
So like 4th.
Oh, yes, of course. I remember the classic Arteezy Theorycrafting Thursday episode. Boy, can you imagine like the Reddit karma we'd get if we had him on our show? God bless. All right. And we'd probably get White Knighted too. Oh, God, it'd be great. All right. That's about it for plugs, I think. So, again, StanKing, thank you.
Do we want to do the final announcement?
I would love you to do whatever announcement you may have planned.
So the main reason is that StanKing is joining Hakuna Marana and replacing Fafnir to be our new support. And so we would just like to welcome him to the DotP family, and you can expect him to, you know.
I like that you didn't give him captain. Like, you made that whole thing up, and then you're like, he still can't be captain, though. This is still my position.
I mean, my shot calling is incredible, let's be real. But if he wants to decide where he... Like, I liked his movement, so he can move where he wants to, but, like, you know.
He has limited sovereignty, so...
Yeah, I mean, this is like a dukedom, not like a king thing.
So, I suppose, congratulations are in order, StanKing.
Oh, shit!
We have ruined your entire professional Dota career in the space of an hour that we've recorded, so welcome to our team. On that note, as fun as that was, I think we can close this out. I don't really have any comments. If you remember, it's been our theory, and if it didn't go great,
it's
well...
your 5K's fault. I wanted it to be that one, not the... Does that make sense?
It definitely is our 5K's fault. That is for certain. So thanks for listening. Goodbye.